This video will be a bit unusual because it will be an analysis of two videos. I haven't really done this before, but I've tried to find out everything you need to know and what's important for the video. In 2014, the world was shocked by the disappearance of a passenger jet that took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport on the 8th of March with 227 passengers and 12 crew members at 0:41 local time. It was scheduled to land in Beijing at around 6:30 a.m. after a flight of just under 6 hours, but just 40 minutes later the aircraft disappeared. Over the years, there have been several reports that pieces of the aircraft have been discovered from time to time, but the complete aircraft has never been found. Then in early August last year, on the 7th of August to be exact, a Reddit user, Volcaro, published a post on Reddit that included a video showing infrared footage. The footage showed an incredible and gruesome event. I first saw it shared on Facebook or YouTube, but after watching it, I just chuckled, saying it was just another hoax. I might have forgotten about the whole thing if an acquaintance hadn't sent me the same video a day or two later, adding that it was probably the missing Malaysian flight. Well, that's when my interest was piqued, especially when this acquaintance shared more links to Reddit posts where interested users were analyzing and discussing the scene in the video. It seems other people were uneasy about it too. As it turned out, a lot of people have started to engage with the issue. But let's see the footage in full. The video shows an infrared footage taken by a drone camera with a passenger plane flying into the distance from the left and passing to the right of the image as it changes direction. The camera then zooms in on the plane, giving a better view of its shape. Then a spherical UFO appears next to it and starts circling around it. Immediately afterwards, another UFO arrives, followed by a third, which joined the first. As they circle the aircraft, the heat signature they leave behind is clearly visible. Then, for a few seconds, the drone camera loses sight of the event, and when the plane reappears, we can see it much more zoomed in. The orbs still circle around it, and then, in a huge flash, both the plane and the UFOs disappear in the blink of an eye. Well, Reddit users investigated until they discovered that the plane in the video bears a striking resemblance to the Boeing 777-200ER, the same type of the passenger jet that went missing in March 2014. It wasn't long before another video emerged, which is a satellite image. Once again, we can see the aircraft in the distance, this time from above. The scene is exactly the same, but from a different angle. It is clear that we can see the same aircraft and the same UFOs arriving one after the other, circling around it. Every detail matches the details of the infrared camera footage. The distance of the UFOs and the movement of the aircraft are exactly the same as in the previous image, but the clouds are much more visible and detailed, which will be important later. The camera follows the plane until it disappears with the flash. Now, let's watch the two recordings together in sync. Well, before I get to analyzing the footage, let's go back to 2014 for a moment. The Australian edition of the International Business Times magazine ran an interesting article on the 23rd of April, more than a month and a half after the plane disappeared. It is titled MH370, Radar Detected UFO Before Jet Goes Missing. Malaysian Air Force head reportedly confirms sightings. The article reports that a month after the plane disappeared, the theory that the flight had been abducted by extraterrestrials was put forward. At the time, several bloggers reported that there had been a number of UFO sightings around Malaysia before the plane disappeared. Alexandra Bruce on Forbidden Knowledge TV provided important information that supports the alien abduction theory. She reported that two distinct anomalies were detected on the Flight Radar 24 website before the plane disappeared. For those who don't know, Flight Radar 24 is a website where you can see planes in the air in real time, download data about them, etc. Well, I found the video analyzed in this article with great difficulty on YouTube, although in rather poor quality, as it is a very old video, uploaded 6 days after the plane disappeared. The gist of it is still very clear. In the vicinity of Flight 370, which is colored red in the video, a round object suddenly appears instead of one of the aircraft, which the radar does not automatically detect as an aircraft. You might think this is just a strange error, but another aircraft, heading roughly west, also takes on a round shape. This object then suddenly turns in exactly the opposite direction, taking on the shape of an aircraft again, and moving off in a northeasterly direction with at least 5 times the speed of the surrounding aircraft. If that wasn't enough, the object literally stops when it reaches the edge of the screen. It then continues at the speed you would expect from an aircraft until it moves out of view. At that point, the other object, which was the first to transform on the radar, resumes its round shape and then disappears without a trace. The Malaysian plane, which had been proceeding smoothly towards its destination, then changes direction very slightly to the right, and a few seconds later it disappears from the radar. Is it just some kind of error? I also found a video on YouTube, uploaded on the day the plane disappeared, which shows the same anomalies, although you can see parts of the map that you can't see in the previous video. Here, several of the planes take on a round shape, so I get the feeling that there was just some sort of temporary signal loss. This is also supported by the video in which the accelerating aircraft is highlighted, which, according to the radar, is Korean Air Flight KAL 672. According to the description in the video, the unrealistic movement is not the actual position of the aircraft, but merely an error on the Flight Radar 24 website. The UFO blogger also documented that Rodzali Daud, the head of the Malaysian Air Force, confirmed that military radar picked up a signal from an unidentified flying object near the site where MH370 is reported to have disappeared.
Malaysia's Air Force Chief Rodzali Daud said military radar detected an UFO in an area in the northern Malacca Strait at 2:15 a.m. local time on Saturday, about an hour after the plane vanished from air traffic control screen,
reported the UFO blogger. Well, this article is still available on the magazine's website, but Alexandra Bruce's website, where the blogger originally reported the UFO report, is no longer available. It is a good question why, but thanks to the website Wayback Machine, which archives all websites, it still can be retrieved and read. Now, let's get back to the footage. The very first post of the incident was originally attributed to a user named Regicide Anon, who uploaded the non-thermal camera footage to his channel on the 19th of May 2014, titled Satellite Video, Airliner and UFOs. But a Reddit user found an even earlier video from March 10, 2014, uploaded just 2 days after the plane disappeared by a user named Dual Gamma. As both channels have since been closed down, it is not possible to determine if both recordings are identical, as again, the channels can only be accessed via the Wayback Machine website. However, the recording of user Regicide Anon is still playable. Unfortunately, I don't have any information about when the thermal camera footage was originally released, but Reddit users immediately started to investigate whether the two images were fake or not, so they examined them from several angles, many frame by frame. It soon became apparent that the black and white footage was taken by the U.S. spy satellite NROL-22 and the infrared footage was taken by the MQ-1C Gray Eagle drone, which is visible at the beginning of the video. At the bottom of the satellite video, you can see coordinates, albeit only halfway. These are not the coordinates of the satellite, but the latitude and longitude in which the camera's viewfinder is looking. You can clearly see that these numbers change with each repositioning. Well, this is an important detail that would have been extremely difficult to fake, as this data was not known to the public at the time the video was released on the 19th of May. The Inmarsat satellite data was released only 8 days later, on the 27th of May, in the form of raw data in a 47-page document that is still available for viewing. After the data was published, it was possible to compare it with the coordinates shown in the video, and surprisingly, the two sources matched. So if the video is a fake, then the maker must have known the data before it was released, but we can easily see that this is unlikely. Well, since the coordinates were already known, Google Earth made it easy to plot the route the plane had taken before it disappeared. This yielded the following result. It really does seem to match the direction changes seen in the videos. Of course, the position of the satellite itself is also important, so the users took into account the light reflecting off the clouds at the time and the fact that the sun rises in the east, as well as the parallax effect, which means that the aircraft is not exactly where the coordinates indicate, but a little further or further back, and the satellite also has a skewed view of events. Another user also looked up the coordinates on the Zoom Earth website. He selected a specific date, set the coordinates, and discovered a shocking thing after approaching the area. The shape of a plane emerged from the clouds, with 3 dots around it in the same arrangement as the UFOs seen in the video footage around the plane. This got me thinking a bit. While it is true that everything is in place to see this discovery as another piece of evidence, I am bothered by the fact that there are only 2 snapshots available of that day, the 8th of March 2014, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Would it be just a crazy coincidence that the morning shot is a frame of the same few seconds as the video? By the way, many people immediately began to doubt, saying that there were just clouds in the picture and that there were no planes or UFOs. Someone even found clouds arranged in a triangular shape in the area, indicating that this is not that uncommon. Others have questioned the size of the aircraft, saying that it is not possible for an aircraft to be so large on such a radar image. Its size simply looks unrealistic in relation to the clouds. The aircraft is almost 100% the same type of aircraft as the missing Malaysian plane, based on the thermal imagery, a Boeing 777-200ER passenger jet. There was little disagreement on this point. Going back to the size of the plane, a Reddit user with a very good mathematical brain did a complete mathematical calculation to see if it was possible to see a plane that size in such a shot. He put it all in a Reddit post entitled, "The misinformation seriously needs to stop." He paid attention to all the geometric and flight factors that could be taken into account and derived them step by step in the post, backed up by calculations, concluding that the aircraft could indeed be the size seen in the image, so it is not at all clear that it is just a cloud. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm sure there are some of you out there for whom all these formulas are not a mess, so you can find the link to the post in the description if you want to study it more carefully. Many people who saw the videos thought that, interestingly, the clouds were not moving in the footage, and therefore thought the videos were faked. One Reddit user analyzed them frame by frame until it became clear that the clouds were moving, changing and deforming exactly as you would expect at this altitude. The analysts also found another interesting detail at the moment when the plane disappears in a big flash in the portal, or whatever you want to call it. At the moment of the flash, the clouds are clearly reflecting the light, which, although it may suggest careful work if it was a fake, another interesting detail becomes visible when the contrast of the video is increased and viewed in a darker tone. After the flash and the plane disappears, a strange hole forms in one of the clouds. It looks like an energy blast has just punched the cloud. It's a detail that few people have noticed, but it adds a lot to the plausibility. those who thought the video was just a computer trick, at least as far as the portal, started investigating. One Reddit user named IcySlide7698 has revealed that the portal itself is most definitely an afterthought, as it matches an element of a 1998 video effects package called Shockwave, which is contained in a compressed file called Pyromania Vol 1. These effects were used in more than 200 movies at the time, including Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, RoboCop, Beetlejuice, Addams Family, and Man in Black, and were also used in many video games of the era, such as Killing Time and Duke Nukem 3D. Well, if you look at the comparison, the similarity between the portal effect in the footage and one of the effects in the video effects package is clearly visible. Another user, Happy Grammys, also proved that the portal in the satellite video was added to the video afterwards, using only a frame from another effect. Although the effect does not look anything like the shape of the flash seen in the video, after some modification and manipulation, there is a ghostly similarity between the two flashes, where even the tiny speckles of light surrounding the flash are in the same place in both cases. Considering the fine details, it really does look like a manipulated satellite image, even if the video itself is based on real footage. But another user was not convinced and continued to research the portal in the thermal footage. He suggested that only one frame of the portal contained a match and that it was only a partial match. He found several images ranging from ink blots to supernovae, which, when superimposed on frames from the original portal, he found an even greater match than the pyromania effects. According to him, if other images are similar to the portal or show even more matches, it is not at all certain that the pyromania effects were used, and therefore the images should not be hastily labeled as fakes. Now let's look at the three spheres that surround the aircraft. As you can see, a lot of detail is lost in the thermal image, so after artificially removing the thermal filter, the video becomes much more detailed, the clouds are more visible, and the heat trails left behind the UFOs are also more clearly visible. But what was not visible in the original footage is that there are also darker tracks in front of the UFOs, like paths that the UFOs follow precisely. What might these tracks be? If we accept the theory that UFOs use warp drive, which allows them to bend space in front of them and perform incredible accelerations and maneuvers, I would think that this is what we can see in front of the UFOs. Because if space bends, so does light, which could even cause dark spots like this in the bent space. And if the footage is a fake, then its maker did a damn good job of thinking of even such tiny, barely noticeable details. And here's an addendum at the end of the video, which I noticed after publishing my previous video, and I hadn't read about it elsewhere, so it's kind of a personal observation. But to do that, we need to keep track of the official route and dates of the flight. Well, the plane took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 0:42 local time. At 1:19, the last radio message from the cockpit.
Good night, Malay 370.
2 minutes later, at 1:21, the position marker for Flight 370 disappears from the airport radar. The plane is then presumed to be turning at a sharp angle to the west, because an hour later, at 2:22, the Malaysian military detects the last radar signal from the plane at this point. And this was a location that was very familiar to me from somewhere. I didn't have to think about it for long, and it came in mind. In part 2 of my earlier video, Distress Calls for Help, I talked about the ship Urang Medan, from which the radio operator was sending a ghostly distress call, and the ship was found here by the arriving rescue teams. In the same bay where the last radar signal from the plane came in. The two locations are approximately 300 kilometers apart, as measured on Google Earth. Almost 66 years have passed between the two incidents, so it is very likely that this is a strange coincidence, but the Bermuda Triangle immediately sprang to mind. Well, since then, new information, findings, comments, revealing arguments and counter-arguments have been emerging, and in this video I have tried to pick out the most relevant ones and the ones that didn't seem complete nonsense. Many people believe that the military and the airport are well aware that the plane was indeed abducted by UFOs, but they are trying to keep this a secret and keep the public constantly disinformed. The wreckage, which is found from time to time, most recently sometime in early September, and which is attributed to pieces of the plane, is also part of the misinformation and diversion. In any case, it really makes you wonder how an aircraft could just disappear without a trace. Whether the videos are authentic or manipulated is a good question. There are many arguments for them, but also many against them, so it's quite difficult to pick out the truth. However, if they are real footage, they can certainly provide an answer to a number of previous cases of alleged UFO abductions of aircraft after their pilots reported unidentified flying objects accompanying the aircraft, such as the case of Frederick Valentich. At least now we can have an idea of how this is happening. The links from which I gathered the information and made the video can be downloaded in text format via the link in the video description if you want to study the topic in more detail. I'm very interested to know what you think about what was said, how real you think the videos are, and in general the UFO hijacking of the Malaysian plane as a possible explanation, so please feel free to comment whether you are skeptical or not. If you liked the video, be sure to like it and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to check back for my previous videos, because I'm sure you'll find more interesting topics. Thank you very much for your attention. I will be back soon with the next video.